Okay, hi. My name is Jim McDaniel, and today I'm presenting Clark Cachula. Clark used to work with an operator in Peru and also with an agency in the U.S., so he has a broad perspective of the travel business. Today he's going to talk about some properties in Peru that, when used in your typical popular itineraries, can greatly enhance your experience. He and I have talked before about things that add value to a commodity, and these properties are great examples of that. They are individually owned and reflect their owners' visions and passions for sharing the magic of the destinations in which they are located. The luxury they provide visitors is not expressed by over-the-top opulence and overwhelming infrastructure, but rather by a firm sense of place created by a fusion of personalized service and design elements in harmony with the cultural and natural world that surround them. In other words, they offer you authenticity and insight that will make you appreciate the location more and feel like you're really getting an insider's view of the place. So now I'm going to turn it over to Clark here, and we can hear what he's got to say.
Great, thanks Jen for the introduction. It's always a pleasure speaking with you about South America, a continent that we both love very much. So what I want to do today is I'm just going to go through some of my favorite properties in Peru, talk about the destination a little bit, but particularly why these properties make the experience so special when visiting the area. So we're going to go do kind of a loop around southern Peru, which we're looking at a map of now. We're going to start off in Lima. We're going to head up into the Andean cloud forest at Machu Picchu. Then we're going to pass through the ancient Incan capital of Cusco, carry on down to the Amazon jungle, and then finish up at Lake Titicaca. Lima to start out with, we're going to talk about Lima and a new neighborhood called Barranco in particular. All travelers to Peru obviously have to pass through Lima. It's the only major international airport in the country. And in the past, people just viewed Lima as a place just to pass through. People didn't used to spend a lot of time there. They were on their way to Machu Picchu, but nowadays with this resurgence of the art scene and the culinary scene and the great colonial history and architecture that Lima has, more and more visitors are wanting to come and stay in Lima. There's a new neighborhood called Barranco. Well, not new at all, very old neighborhood, but this is the new kind of hot spot in Lima, the neighborhood of Barranco. This is just adjacent to Miraflores, so a 5-minute taxi ride from Miraflores. It's a seaside district above the sea cliffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And this is an area that was really big in the heyday at the turn of the century, where most of the wealthy folks in Lima had their summer seaside getaways. And it really went into a period of disrepair for a while until about the late 70s, when artists started coming in to take over these huge old casonas and manor houses along the seafront, using them as artist studios, and that in turn, kind of that counterculture has really drawn other people to come to Barranco. Now it's the real center of culinaries and arts in Lima. My favorite property there, we have the Art Boutique Hotel B, which just opened this year in 2013. This property was purchased by a real Peruvian visionary hotelier named Ignacio Macias in Peru. And this is some pictures of when he purchased this property. It had been abandoned for a few years. There were even squatters living in here, but he found out the history of this building was done by an incredible French architect that had done a lot of the remodeling of the presidential palace in Lima, along with many other public works. Two very prominent political families owned this building, and then it was in disrepair, so he purchased this. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and 6 years later, and lots of red tape and headaches, we now have Arts Boutique Hotel B. This is amazingly the only boutique hotel, kind of luxury boutique hotel in Lima. Lima is more categorized. You have a lot of very large, kind of global chain, 200-plus room hotels. This Arts Boutique Hotel B is an advantage of being in this new hip neighborhood of Barranco, having incredible history to it and really amazing design elements. When he completely remodeled this building, trying to keep as much of the original architectural details as possible, and really trying to bring back this whimsical feel of the heydays and the Roaring 20s, when fashion was, urban travel was maybe a bit more glamorous than it was today. So kind of bringing back that era of the Roaring 20s, when that heyday, when this mansion was in its heyday. This is nowadays. This is when it's just opened, actually a few weeks ago here. The interior lobby check-in. What's interesting about it, being in Barranco, which is a big artistic neighborhood, is that you can see the art on the wall is very modern. This hotel is connected to the Lucia de la Puente gallery next door, who is a very famous art collector, and has a gallery there, and she curates all the art for the hotel, so it's revolving. Every 3 months there will be new exhibits in the hotel. Here's an example. It's just 17 rooms, so a very small hotel, very intimate, focused on the arts and the culinary scene of Lima. And we have a restaurant on site there called El Comedor, which is a signature restaurant by a fellow named Oscar Velarde. He's one of Lima's best-known chefs, so he's the one who's put together the menu. This restaurant as well in the hotel is open to the public as well, so you have a lot of the well-to-do people in Lima coming here to have drinks and dinner in the evening. So the hotel really feels a part of the community. Also, all this art as well you can see is from Lucia de la Puente Gallery, which is next door, and Arts Boutique Hotel B often also has a small passageway connecting it to the gallery, so after hours the hotel can arrange special dinners and gatherings or events inside the art gallery. So this hotel really kind of exemplifies the new Lima, which is really well known across South America for its arts and culinary scenes. So moving up to Machu Picchu, obviously not a destination that really needs an introduction. It's the most iconic traveler destination in South America, probably only rivaled by the Galapagos. My favorite property there is owned by Inca Terra, which is a family-run Peruvian hotel company. We're going to talk about 3 of the properties here today. But the Machu Picchu Pueblo Hotel by Inca Terra is unique in that it's right at the base of Machu Picchu, where almost all the other hotels are, so we're a 20-minute shuttle ride from the hotel up to the ruins. But what's unique about this property is that they sit on 12 acres of this cloud forest environment. Most people think Machu Picchu is up on the loftiest mountain, which is actually not true. Machu Picchu is down in the Andean cloud forest. So as you come down out of the high Andes towards the Amazon rainforest, you're in this transition zone where they get a lot of moisture and warmth coming up from the Amazon, but you're still at about 8,500 feet elevation. So the cloud forest is a phenomenal environment. On these 12 acres, this is a very untraditional hotel. It's all whitewashed cottages that were built around the natural landscape features there. So there's no long hallways that you're walking through or people pushing room service carts along it. They're little whitewash cottages that are spread throughout the cloud forest. It's a pretty large hotel. We have 85 rooms, but you wouldn't know that going there because of all the little paths to get to the individual room blocks on it. Inca Terra's design, unlike all of their properties, what they try to do is they try to weave in the cultural and natural history of Peru to provide people a true, authentic Peruvian experience rather than really focusing on the marble and the gold leaf of a typical luxury property. Here the luxury is in the details, and those are Peruvian details. Here are just some pictures of the common areas, the lounge and library. And then rooms, they have everything. This is one of their superior deluxe rooms. All the rooms are wonderful, have a fireplace looking out over flower-filled gardens full of hummingbirds. No TVs for distraction. And here, this is an area they put, it's Machu Picchu was basically a royal Incan retreat, and they're trying to emulate this with the property, have it a very serene setting surrounded by nature. Getting up into some of their larger suites and villas, they're absolutely phenomenal. 4-room villas that have their own private heated plunge pools in the back and outdoor showers and day beds for people to enjoy after a long day of exploring Machu Picchu. But to me, the most fantastic thing about this property is that on those 12 acres, the hotel area is only on a small portion of the property, and the rest of the property is a private reserve where they have about 7 miles of walking trails through the cloud forest environment. And also on site at their activity center, their eco center on site, they have naturalist guides. They have botanists, they have ornithologists, and other skilled naturalists that take hotel guests on interpretive walks or docent-led walks throughout the trails on the property. And those pretty much can be focused on 3 main areas. One, they do a lot of walks, which is just an overview of the cloud forest to talk about how different this is from the Amazon and how different it is from the high Andes. This is one walk in particular that's hiking up a creek that borders the property called El Camayo up to a really beautiful waterfall. So this is kind of an overview of the cloud forest walk that takes about an hour and a half. And then the Inca Terra Machu Picchu Pueblo Hotel is known worldwide for its orchids. This area surrounding Machu Picchu is rich in orchids, and the owner of Inca Terra is a real orchid fanatic, and he's managed to, over the years, assemble what is, according to the American Orchid Society, the largest orchid garden in the world based in a natural setting. They have over 372 species of orchids in their orchid garden at the property, and those aren't just, those are native orchids, so orchids that are found in the immediate area. None of these are imported from from Asia or Africa or elsewhere. So the on-site botanist, Carmen, takes guests in the afternoon through the orchid garden to show the size of orchids, what makes an orchid, and just an incredible variety of orchids. So this is really a highlight of most people's visits to Machu Picchu and to this property, is seeing this vast array of orchids. And then also the bird life, since the entire property, they had basically taken out any non-native invasive species of plants, so it's rich in flowering and seeding plants in the area, lots of hummingbird feeders around. So it attracts an incredible variety of exotic bird life. This bird on the left is the Gallito de las Rocas, or the Andean caca de rock. It's the national bird of Peru. And then they also have about 18 species of hummingbirds, and I mean, literally walking around the property sometimes are worried you're going to get speared by a hummingbird. There's so many flying around at every moment. And what I like about these experiences is that most people are, they head to Machu Picchu with this kind of tunnel vision of getting that picture of them in the ruins. Here I am, I've checked it off my bucket list, and they see the ruins somewhat in a vacuum, whereas the big mystery of Machu Picchu is why the Incas built it where they did. And spending time at this property and really going out and seeing what a Garden of Eden, the cloud forest is, with the exotic flowers and bird life and plants, how gorgeous it is, it makes sense why the Incas would have chose to build this kind of retreat, very spiritual city in the cloud forest. So these experiences at this property really enhance the visitors' kind of deeper understanding of Machu Picchu, not just in the tunnel vision of the amazing ruins, but really of why they would have chose to build Machu Picchu in this cloud forest environment. Moving on up to Cusco, which is everyone that is on their way to Machu Picchu is going to pass through Cusco. Cusco was the ancient imperial capital of the Incan Empire, incredible blend of colonial and Incan and pre-Incan history here. And again, Inca Terra, with their kind of focus on proving authenticity and bringing in the cultural and natural history elements of the surroundings, they purchased this mansion that is on the what's called Plazoleta Nazarenas, just a block up from the main plaza. And this building, back in Incan times, it served as kind of a, they would call the kind of warrior training area for the Incan armies. You can see the Incan base of this building. But this colonial structure, a lot of historians believe, is one of the oldest and best preserved colonial buildings in Cusco, dating back to around 1585, I believe. And the original owner of this building was Captain Francisco Barrientos, who was one of the original conquistadors. And later on, this building also had housed Simon Bolivar in his liberation campaigns throughout South America. He used this as his sleeping quarters and headquarters in this building. It also was in disrepair for many years before Inca Terra purchased it. What I like about this is there's a lot of fancy high-end five-star properties in Cusco, with the men with top hats and tails outside and the flags outside and the red carpet, whereas this hotel, you could walk by it without even noticing. People will see this nice gold Relais Chateau plaque outside, but this wooden door, which is original, remains closed. It's not open to the public. It's really only for the registered guests that come in to this historic building. So there's no front desk, as per se, with a concierge there. There is, a house maitre d', so when guests arrive, will knock on that green door. They're let inside. They're checked in here in the living room in front of a fireplace, served cocoa tea, given an explanation about the history of this mansion. And the idea about it is to make it very exclusive just for the guests that are staying on the property. And what Inca Terra is trying to provide is to give visitors a feeling of maybe what it would have been like to have lived back in the colonial period here in Cusco. As one of the conquistadors, one of the privileged class of the Spaniards living during colonial times in this great big mansion. This is the interior courtyard. It's a very small property. There's only 11 rooms. It's the only Relais Chateau property in Cusco. So all the 11 rooms are scattered around this courtyard on the 2 levels. And peeking into some of the rooms, this is one of the Plaza View suites that looks out over Plaza Nazarenas. It has its own fireplace, beautiful sitting area, enormous bathroom. And all of the basically furniture was done with period details of back from the 16th century. Even in the bathrooms, you can see up there on the walls, those in the plaster there, those designs were actually found under years and years of wallpaper and plaster. They had artisans come back and bring back these details of the building. Wood carvers looking at motifs that were on doors that they found there to weave them into the carvings for the furniture. So just incredible attention to detail of this property, bringing back that era. Then we're going to head down into the Peruvian Amazon. Inca Terra has some property there. This was actually their first property. This is down the southern Peruvian Amazon, so area of Tamaulipas. What's great about this is travelers to Peru that, I'd say 95% of people going to Peru are going to go to Machu Picchu and Cusco, and then they're looking at what's another place I want to move in for a couple of days as an extension. This is great because from Cusco, where we just were, there's daily flights, commercial flights. There's about 3 a day direct that fly from Cusco down to a town in the Peruvian Amazon called Puerto Maldonado. It's only a 30-minute flight, so literally you can be having breakfast in that colonial mansion in the Andes, in La Casona, get on a flight, and then you're down to the jungle lodge in the Amazon having lunch, which is an incredible change of scene. So once you fly into the airport in Puerto Maldonado, you're picked up by the lodge staff and taken down this river. This is called the Madre de Dios River. So this is one of the 11,000 named tributaries of the Amazon basin. So it's a 30-minute motorized dugout canoe downstream to their lodge, which sits right on the edge of the river. This is all built in a traditional indigenous style called the Eseeja, which are the native people that live around this area, the Tamalpata and Madre de Dios River confluence area. So this is the main lodge building where meals are served. What I like about this lodge is, it's off the grid, it's in the jungle. Obviously for the main lodge, you need to have a generator running for the kitchen certain hours, but apart from that, it's mostly lit by hurricane lamps. You're surrounded by the sound of monkeys and parrots and of the jungle the whole time while you're staying there. And really, not a whole lot of civilization noise. The way the property is also set up is that most jungle lodges have a main building and then they'll have wings off of them with the main rooms side by side. What's nice about Inca Reserve Amazonica is they have individual cabanas, individual bungalows, so everyone has their own private little bungalow. They have 35 of these beautiful, tree stump paths that weave through the grounds to get to the different bungalows where guests are staying. Looking inside of them, again, gorgeously done, all with local native hardwoods, thatched roofs, all in this traditional style. Very comfortable lodging, but at the same time, let's point back that it's not over the top for the environment that you're in. These are screened in. They do have ceiling fans, but they're not air conditioned. You're not sealed out from the noises of the jungle. Just very comfortable. Then again, at night, it's lovely getting back here with candles lit and your hurricane lamps as you're going to sleep, listening to the sounds of the jungle outside. Some of the suites there even have little cold plunge pools in the back as well, which is a nice treat. Guests going down to the Amazon and staying at a place like Inca Reserve Amazonica, they have their own naturalist guides on site, so all the excursions are included during the stay. And so these excursions range from a trail network from the lodge surrounding out from the property, going through different parts of the ecosystem, nature trails through dry forest, through primary forest, through secondary forest, and then, like this bottom right picture is through a trail they've established through some wetland area, which they call the Anaconda Walk. So going through the rainforest as a naturalist guide, you learn about these different levels of the Amazon rainforest, which for most people can seem pretty repetitious. But as you go through the dry forest, the flooded forest, primary, secondary forest, it's really fascinating to learn about. And then, of course, the other way you get around in the Amazon is aquatically. So they do excursions out to this place at the top left is Lake Sandoval, which is a beautiful oxbow lake that you have to hike into and paddle onto in a canoe. It's a great place for seeing lots of different primate species. There's giant river otter that live in this lake as well. And then there's more adventurous excursions like this one up Gamitana Creek, which will motor up a very small tributary, so you're very close to the banks, really good wildlife spotting. Take people up to the very top to the kind of a large pool where you can actually fish for piranha. So you stay at this lodge, but the whole point is to get out and explore the rainforest. And also what's really cool about the Inca Reserve Amazonica property is it's the only property in this area that has a canopy walkway, and a really phenomenal canopy walkway. This was built back in, I want to say it was around 2005 or 6. I remember I was guiding there at the time while the crew was there building it. It was a U.S. firm that built this canopy walkway. Just incredible. So they've got 2 large towers that you start out of one tower and then the other. 8 platforms connecting by 7 bridges. So this is really a full day excursion going through the entire canopy walkway with your naturalist guide, where a completely different variety of flora and fauna exists and lives in the forest canopy that never really comes down on the forest floor. So it's almost like walking through another world in the Amazon, being that high up in the forest canopy. And then the one thing, if you really want to have a special experience while there, they have this small treehouse. This is 90 feet up on the forest floor at the Inca Canopy Treehouse, and it's 2 beds in there. There's even a little bathroom, and it's butler served, so someone from the lodge will bring up dinner, bring up chilled wine. So people go here, have their dinner, watch sunset over the Amazon, sleep up in the forest canopy, and then in the morning they'll serve a full breakfast up there before you come down and either go on to your next destination or continue on with your stay at the lodge. But definitely not for sleepwalkers, this one. And the last place, Lake Titicaca. This is an amazing destination as well. I really think that if people are looking for options of what do they want to do they want to, after Machu Picchu, they want to do something that's wildlife and nature oriented, then the Amazon is a good option. But if people are more interested, like I am, in kind of culture and history and landscape, Lake Titicaca can't be beat. It's much more than just a funny name that we all laughed at in geography class at school. Titicaca is unique in the fact that getting up here, people fly from Cusco into a town called Juliaca, but the majority of hotels are in the one main town on the Peruvian lakeshore called Puno. What's nice about this property is you're well outside of town. They're out around a small indigenous village called Titicaca, which is its namesake. And so really luxurious property out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by beautiful little indigenous villages, just completely cut off from the rest of the world. This is really, when people walk into this hotel like Titicaca, it's the last thing they're expecting. I mean, the last bit of the drive is 20 minutes dirt road. You're going through these little Andean villages that haven't changed much over hundreds of years. When they walk into this hotel, and just kind of blown away by the design and architectural features. It sits on a little peninsula, so you're completely surrounded by water. You feel like you're floating while you're staying here. Every view out the window, you're looking out over the lake because it surrounds it on 3 sides. So it's just the lounge area of the property, and then they did a great job of working with the local communities around there, all the weavers in the local communities. All this decoration is done by local artisans that live just around the hotel, which many guests go and visit with these little communities that are wood carvers and do textiles and weavings. So that's a beautiful element that they've woven into the property everywhere. And Lake Titicaca, the amazing thing is the sky there. Great outdoor areas at this hotel to sit out and enjoy the ever-changing sky over Lake Titicaca. Small property as well. This is only 17 rooms, very intimate. All the rooms, as you said, have views out looking over the lake. Huge tubs, radiant floor heating. Lake Titicaca is really high up here, about 13,000 feet up. So this is generally the highest that most visitors get when they're on a trip to Peru overall. But enough about a fancy property. Most people are going to Lake Titicaca to obviously do excursions and learn about the area. So with this property, they have 4 full-time local guides that take guests out on excursions around the property. These can range from just straight from the hotel. They have sea kayaks and mountain bikes that guests can either take out and paddle around the lake on their own, or they might go with the guide and paddle over to a deserted beach for lunch. And then further afield, they use small Land Rovers to get out and explore the area. And again, because of the location of this hotel, not being in Puno, you don't see any other tourists when you head out on excursions here. Really, the area surrounding Titicaca, the only guests that are exploring this area are guests that are staying at Titicaca itself. There's great little colonial churches around that area, and these small towns of Chuquito and Pomata and Puli to visit, each with their own kind of character and design elements. You have an incredible array in this area of Inca, but more importantly, I think, is you have a lot of pre-Incan ruins in this area, because Lake Titicaca really was the cradle of Andean civilization, and where, according to the creation myths of the Incan Empire, is where their people came from. So, for example, these are burial chambers called the Suyustani, which most people visit to or from the airport. An incredible place to walk around and see these burial chambers, which are pre-Inca. And then straight from the hotel, they have their own private dock, and they'll do nautical excursions out. What we're seeing in the background, looking out over, this is on a clear day from the hotel, you're looking at the Cordillera Real of Bolivia. So just an incredible landscape on Lake Titicaca. And these nautical excursions, they go out to a really famous island called Isla Tequile, or this one, which most people have seen lots of pictures of, are the islands of the Uros people. The Uros are an ethnic group on Lake Titicaca that actually live on these islands made of reeds. These are made of Tatura reeds, which the local people harvest and gather and build their islands out of it. So it's literally like walking across a waterbed when you get on their islands. And it's just a completely different lifestyle, living on floating islands in the middle of Lake Titicaca. The people here mainly make their living from fishing the waters around them, hunting waterfowl, and then living off of the reeds. They can eat the reeds, but they use them for their boats. They use them for building their homes. Really fascinating visit, and two of the guides at Titicaca are actually born and raised on the Hooters Island. So when guests are going out with them at Titicaca, they're actually visiting the guides' mothers and sisters and extended family, which is a really great insider experience. And then surrounding Titicaca, like I talked about, there's no other properties in the area, so really guests have this really untouched experience there. This lady on the right is from the village of Copamaya, which is about a 10-minute drive from the hotel itself. And this woman and her family are the ones that do all the weavings and textiles for the hotel's decorations and everything that's in the gift shop. Then you have these great little villages as well with these beautiful stone door lintels in the little Andean villages around Lake Titicaca. So Lake Titicaca is incredibly fascinating, you know, the cultural history of it, the landscape, and the traditions of the people there. So that's it, Jim.
Okay, yeah, you did a really good job of showing how each of the properties really kind of immerses the people in not only in the location where they're at, but also in the nature and the culture and the history of the area. Much more so than just, you know, a typical big chain hotel or you know, that you could go to in any country. These properties, you really showed how they immerse you into the local